Welcome to the Matrexit discussion group this wonderful Sunday night, the first day of the week, not the seventh day, not the Sabbath, like I've said many times. And, the devil lies in the details. And that's one of the things that we're going to start going into. People don't know it's called deviling. It's kind of maybe a European or an English word that they use regarding the things that attorneys or lawyers would do, or esquires, or in that case, maybe barristers in England. It would be called deviling. I think we've probably all heard people mention the phrase that, to be the devil's advocate. There's even a good movie out there, Devil's Advocate. And that's where they got that name from. And what we're going to be going into is looking at how the judiciary system really works. What's really going on in the judicial system that we don't know about? Because one of the most important things that I think out of all the things, because there's so many things that are not taught to people, K through 12 growing up, is that they should have some basic comprehension of the legal system, which people don't. And unfortunately, a lot of people couldn't even tell you really what the three branches of government are, which to me should be like very, very basic. You've got your judicial, your administrative, and your legislative. Well, guess what? Those branches are also going to involve the judiciary. It isn't just a stand-alone branch to itself. It also affects legislation. And it also has offices or agencies administratively that are under the executive branch of government. So that's one of the things that we're going to be covering. And I've recommended that people get the Gilbert Law Summary on legal research, writing, and analysis, because this is going to give a good overview for people. I know when I first started researching things and studying things, which was the reason why I started the group Tactical Sovereignty, so people could see the types of things I was looking at, what I was researching, and kind of the path that I was taking, if you will. And what I started finding out was that there were so many things that people think are true that just are not the case. I think there's a great quote by Samuel Clemens that says, "It's not what people think they know that gets them into trouble. It's what they think they know that just isn't so." And I see that happen over and over again with people in court situations, because they basically really just don't know what they're doing. You can see this all day long. You jump on YouTube and see people like at first appearances trying to argue their case. They don't comprehend that is not the time or place to argue the case. In fact, you might have 3, 4, 5 appearances before you even get to the point where it's time to argue the case. And people have no clue about that, or how these things work. And when I was studying some of these things and learning some of these things, that it just went against all the stuff I heard everybody talking about before, that's what kind of made me step away from reading information from people that you could tell just really didn't have a clue. A lot of their things didn't add up. I want to get right into the nuts and bolts, go to the source, and find out what's really going on. Like I said, when I started finding out what was really going on, it did not jive. It did not match up with the things a lot of people were saying. Even especially like when it comes to issues like the Treasury, for instance. People need to realize that if there's a system set up out there that the people can use, that it cannot be arbitrary. Every single man or woman has the right to use those things that are established. And so there's not going to be some hidden secret stuff stuck away in law. Everything is available for everybody equally. Now, the things that you are going to find, that we will be covering a lot of these items, are things that say that attorneys will use in cases that are totally legitimate for them to use, but it kind of will derail a case or send it in another direction. It might be looked at as kind of tricks. There's a lot of little tricks that they use, and people don't realize it unless you're knowledge and studied on this. That way you can identify it when those situations occur. And that's one of the things that I really want to cover and help people see. This isn't going to be something that once you're done, you're going to be able to go try a murder case or anything like that. No, this is really just mostly going to be all just the very basic things on how the system works. For instance, how you should file things and when. Are you required to give a qualified response, for instance? What is a qualified response? But there's a whole lot of those things that we're going to get into. And what we're really going to be doing is enabling you or equipping you to handle things like a lawyer. All right? We need to realize there's a difference between a lawyer and an attorney. An attorney is someone who has been given the okay to practice law in courts and to represent people. A lawyer is someone who is just well learned in law. And that's what everybody needs to be. Everybody really needs to be well learned in law. There's been so many times that people have come to me, for instance, and they'll show like an affidavit or something that they've written to the court. And I know for them, it is their magnum opus, manuscripto, whatever. They've never written anything before, so they just think this is a bomb. They've really nailed it. When they don't realize, the first time you ever attempt to do anything, like, the first time you ever attempt to make a snowman, for instance, guess what? It wasn't the most awesome snowman in the world. But as a child, you thought it was. Same exact scenario, same situation. And so once you go and start learning some of these basics and finding out how things really work, see what is recognized, what's not recognized, then you'll go back and within one or two sentences, you can quickly identify things that are not good knowledge or intelligence, because that's really how things are broken down. If you go into, for instance, the 3-letter agencies and look at how they investigate things, look at the research they do. They break down into 3 categories. One is information, and there's tons of it out there. It's all over the internet, tons of information. Then there's knowledge. So in the knowledge, you're going to be getting more into a core of the truth. But then the third level, the top level, is intelligence. Why do you think the Central Intelligence Agency is called the Central Intelligence Agency? It's because they are out there researching and digging and looking for intelligence. They want factual knowledge of what's going on. It's really scared me, especially the past year or so. If you go online to do a search to find out some knowledge or intel, for instance, I remember there was one legal topic I was looking up several months ago, and I knew for a fact the first 10 entries of suggestions that they gave, that they provided, were all false. They were bogus. And I knew it because I knew who owned those sites. And those sites do nothing but give out false information. And now, even the past few weeks, you'll go on and do a search, and you'll notice that they are throwing up suggestions for a Twitter post or for a TikTok post. I'm sorry, you're not going to get intelligence on TikTok. The reason why is because the big money makers out there, the big business people that are out for good customers, that are spreading real knowledge, that are spreading intel, aren't going to use TikTok because that's not where their customer base is at. I've listened to plenty of their meetings, and I've listened to lots of them discuss this. And over again, when this is brought up, that's what they say. They are not wasting their time there because that's not where the big money's at. And so you may find entertaining stuff, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of people are out looking for, is entertainment. Hopefully, this is not going to be just entertainment, unless for you, getting an education is considered entertainment, because for me, it is. But this is really going to be getting in and being a little more collegiate and doing some research and some study. There will be some upcoming quizzes that are going to be given. That's why I say that two of the main things to have right off the get is to get the Gilbert law summaries and to have like a Black's 4th edition or lower. I myself just don't go over a 4th edition. I also use the Merriam-Webster legal dictionary. Excellent dictionary. And so you're going to need those things to kind of follow us through this course. Now, I'm going to be waiting on a couple of assistants that are going to be doing this as well. And unfortunately, right now, they are bogged down with some court matters. And so I don't know, it's going to be 2-3 weeks before they're able to join us. If it ends up looking like it's going to be too far out, I'll just start this up myself and just be giving you the basics, because it's all very simple. It really is. But these people will be able to give you a little bit more detail behind what really goes on in the judicial system and some of the tricks that they try and play on people, because there are plenty of them. So this length of time will give people an opportunity to purchase those. Let me jump over to the chat here, and I'm going to throw a link in the chat that is going to provide these things. And if anybody wants to go into the chat, let me see if I can do this here. It's not looking like it's posting for me. There we go. It was a lot of info. It took it a minute. You can go into the chat here on Talkshoe, and you can copy and paste what I put there. That's going to be the resources. And if you're joining us on YouTube here in a little bit, I'm going to go and I'm going to throw that in the description box as well, so people can go and grab those resources. And if you want, when you do get them, start out on your own before we really get rolling here, and start looking at these things, because you're going to find knowledge there, you're going to find intel there that just does not match up with what people have kind of assumed or guessed to be true. And so what I want to do is really quit the guessing game so that we're confident and knowledgeable when we go in. This research here, I'm kind of past it now myself. This isn't really where my heart's at, but I think this is stuff that should get out there. I'm on to other things now, but you know, before a lot of this escapes me or gets too far along, I want to be able to put this out there. And this is stuff that should have been put out a long time ago. I'm excited about this because I haven't seen any other resource out there doing it. Now, I do recognize some info that you find online that is legitimate. It's good intel that people could use as a source to learn how the structure works, but it's not presented that way. So people wouldn't realize that when they see it. So what I want to do is present this in a way to let people know, hey, this is for, you might still be in high school. You might be 60, 70, 80 years old. It doesn't matter. This will give you a good background as to what's really going on. Because I find it interesting, once you know a lot of these things, you can read, say, for instance, a newspaper article, or you can hear even an interview, for instance, that's given on TV, and you can see through the BS. I think it's interesting when you listen, for instance, to the news. I remember way back when I used to watch TV, I would hear the reporters say, well, you know, we were given bad information. You'd hear that all the time. Like, for instance, when they talked about weapons of mass destruction, oh, we got bad information. But wait a minute. Your agencies were not looking for information. You weren't really even looking for knowledge. You were looking for intelligence. They don't tell you, oh, we got bad intel. You might hear them slip and say it once in a while, but people don't know what that is. So they just say, we got bad information. So I think it's interesting when you can start identifying things when you hear them or you read them, because you really know how the system is set up and what's going on and what can be done and what can't be done. Because the majority of the time, the things that are put out, whether it's to the press or even said to somebody in a court setting, whether it's a threat from the bench, you'll hear things that you will know that they are not absolutely not able to do. And you know why they can't do it, and you'll know how to be able to stop that. So I just want to give a quick summary as to what these, I'm going to call them sessions, are going to be about. I'm not necessarily going to call them classes. This isn't really a classroom setting, and I don't know how much class I have, but so we'll just call these sessions. And hopefully, I'll tell you what, I guarantee after just 3 or 4 of these sessions, and I'm going to keep them all down to an hour if I can. After 3 or 4 of these sessions, you are going to have info even then. You're going to have knowledge, intel even then, that is going to help you be able to spot things and recognize bad knowledge when you see it. You're going to be able to recognize what's happening with a court case when you see something happening, and even be able maybe to help direct people, because that's what this is really for. This is what lawyers are supposed to do. This is what people that are learned in law are supposed to be able to do, is help each other out. Granted, lawyers don't represent people, attorneys do, but you can walk people through a situation. You can look at their case form and say, hey, this is what's happening, or let them know, listen, look at what your public pretender is doing here. Your public pretender should be doing this or should be doing that. They should have filed for all the disclosure on the case by now. They haven't done that. Have they shared that with you? They should be sharing it with you. That way you can point out the flaws. These are going to be some of the things that we're going to be helping people with, and help you learn and have more of a confident comprehension of what's really going on in the judicial society, because it really is a society all to itself. That's why this intelligence hasn't been put out to the general public, because if people knew this, the majority of people would never need to hire an attorney, unless you're doing something more complex, like maybe writing a trust or a layered trust, or a very severe court case. For the basic things that people normally are in and out of court having to do, you'd be armed. You'll be armed with that, and that's the ultimate goal. So everybody, thank you for being here. I'm going to keep everybody posted as to what's going on. There has been a Facebook group started particularly for these sessions, and that is also going to be listed here in the notes on Talkshoe and in the description box on YouTube. And join the channel as well. Hit the notifications. That way you know when things are coming up. You can also hit the notifications on Talkshoe where the classes are going to be held. That way you get emailed when a class is scheduled, because in the future they will always be scheduled minimum 24 hours ahead of time, guaranteed. If they don't get scheduled 24 hours ahead of time, it's because there's a serious situation that they couldn't be, but guaranteed 99% of the time they will always be scheduled at least a day ahead of time. And what I ultimately plan on having done is get on a regular meeting path, like every Sunday night at 9 p.m., for instance, like the previous tactical sovereignty calls have been. And 9 p.m. isn't too late for the majority of people on the East Coast, and it's not too early for a lot of people either that are on the left coast. And because this is a poll I took a few years ago as to when people want to do it, because there was a lot of people on the left coast and a lot of people on the East Coast, and that was the happy medium time. And so that's probably what we're going to use. But until then, you've got the links in order to find these books at the Gilbert's Law Summary book, and either a Merriam-Webster legal dictionary or Black's Fourth or lower. And you can go, I'll tell you what, the Gilbert Law Summaries book, you can find them up over $100 online. The link I provided, I think you can get one as low as $30, but you can also go to other links like Abe Books or something like that and pick up a used copy, and that's fine. You can pick them up for maybe $5. Do it. It's better than nothing. So, sum it up, we're going to have another couple weeks at least before we get rolling, so I'll give people time to order these books or find them and get a head start on looking at them and wrapping their mind around how things are really set up, because I promise after even 2 or 3 of these sessions, there's going to be some things that are going to be found to be quite surprising to you. Until then, everybody be blessed, and can't wait to get this rolling. Like I said, I haven't seen this put out anywhere for people before, and there's a reason why. Because if people were armed with this knowledge, like I said, you could do so much of this yourself. It would put the bar association, they'd have to be hanging out somewhere else, trying to feed off from people, because the American people would really know what's going on the way they should. But this has been hidden from people up until now. So in the next week or two, look forward to seeing you again. Thank you all.